I used to think a walkway was just something you walked on. Nothing exciting. Nothing that could actually change a yard. I couldn't have been more wrong. For months, this part of my yard was just a strip of grass that turned muddy every time it rained. Carrying tools across it was annoying, guests avoided it, and honestly, the whole backyard felt unfinished. Then I spent one weekend laying down a simple paver path. Now people walk into my yard and ask the same question. Who designed this? The craziest part? It was a DIY project anyone can build. In this video, I'll show you exactly how I transformed an ordinary patch of grass into a clean modern walkway that completely changed the look and feel of my outdoor space. You'll see the planning, the materials, the installation process, the mistakes I avoided, and the final result that made the entire backyard feel more expensive and more enjoyable to use. If you've been thinking about upgrading your yard without spending a fortune, this project might be the best place to start. Let's get into it. Part 1. The problem nobody talks about. Before this project, getting to my backyard meant walking across the lawn every single time. It didn't seem like a big issue until I realized how much that simple inconvenience affected the way I use the space. After a rainstorm, the grass became soft and muddy, leaving footprints everywhere. Carrying a grill, wheelbarrow, or bags of mulch turned into a balancing act, and guests naturally avoided walking through the yard. The strange thing is that the backyard itself wasn't the problem. It had plenty of potential. The missing piece was a clear, inviting path that connected the house to the rest of the landscape. Without it, everything felt disconnected and unfinished. I started looking at professionally designed gardens and noticed one common feature. Almost all of them had defined walkways. They guided movement, framed the landscaping, and instantly made the space feel intentional. That's when I decided to stop treating the walkway as an afterthought and make it the centerpiece of the transformation. The goal wasn't just to improve appearances. It was to create something practical that would encourage us to use the backyard more often and enjoy every trip across it. Part 2. Planning the perfect layout. The planning stage turned out to be just as important as laying the pavers themselves. Instead of rushing out to buy materials, I spent time visualizing how people would naturally move through the yard. A walkway should feel effortless, almost like it was always meant to be there. I marked different routes using stakes and string, then walked them several times to see which path felt the most comfortable. Even shifting the layout by a few inches made a noticeable difference. The final design created a direct route while still leaving enough lawn and planting space on both sides. Next came the size and spacing of the pavers. Larger stepping stones created a cleaner, more modern appearance and reduced the number of joints that needed maintenance. Even spacing between each stone gave the walkway a balanced rhythm and made it easier to walk naturally without adjusting my stride. Another decision was what to place between the pavers. Instead of filling every gap with concrete, I chose decorative gravel for contrast and drainage. That combination created a high-end look while keeping the project budget-friendly. Spending extra time planning saved countless adjustments later and made installation much smoother. Part 3. Choosing affordable materials. One of the biggest surprises about this project was that it didn't require luxury materials to achieve a premium result. In fact, most of the supplies are readily available at local home improvement stores or landscape suppliers. The stars of the project were large concrete pavers. They're durable, weather-resistant, and instantly create a sleek architectural look. Beneath them, I used a compacted gravel base for stability and added a layer of leveling sand to make precise adjustments during installation. Landscape fabric was another worthwhile addition. It helps reduce weed growth beneath the walkway and keeps the base materials separated from the soil over time. While it may seem like an optional expense, it can save hours of maintenance later. Decorative gravel filled the spaces around the pavers, adding texture while improving drainage after rain. I also gathered simple tools: a shovel, rake, measuring tape, level, tamper, and rubber mallet. The best part is that none of these materials are particularly complicated or expensive. Careful preparation and attention to detail matter far more than buying premium products. With smart planning, you can achieve a polished, custom look without stretching your budget. Part 4. Building the walkway step by step. Once everything was measured and marked, the real transformation began. The first task was removing the grass and digging out enough soil to accommodate the base layers and pavers. Taking time to excavate evenly helped prevent future settling. Next, I spread crushed gravel across the entire path and compacted it thoroughly. This foundation is what keeps the walkway stable season after season. Skipping or rushing this step can lead to uneven stones later. So patience pays off here. A thin layer of sand went on top of the gravel to fine-tune the height of each paver. As I placed every stone, I checked it with a level and made small adjustments using a rubber mallet until it sat perfectly. Keeping the spacing consistent required constant measuring. But those extra minutes created a clean and professional appearance. Once all the pavers were in position, I filled the surrounding gaps with decorative gravel and brushed everything into place. With a final cleanup and rinse, the project suddenly came together. The plain strip of grass had been replaced with a structured pathway that looked like it belonged in a professionally landscaped yard, even though it had been built with basic tools and careful planning. Part 5. Mistakes you should avoid. Every DIY project comes with lessons, and this one was no exception. One of the easiest mistakes is underestimating the importance of the base. If the gravel isn't compacted properly, pavers may sink or shift over time, creating uneven surfaces and trip hazards. Another common issue is inconsistent spacing. Even small variations become obvious once the entire path is complete, so using temporary spacers or careful measurements can make a huge difference in the final appearance. Drainage is another factor many people overlook. Water needs somewhere to go, and designing a walkway with proper grading helps prevent puddles from forming around or beneath the stones. Rushing the leveling process is also tempting, especially when progress feels slow. However, checking each paver individually ensures the entire path feels comfortable and stable underfoot. Finally, avoid making the walkway too narrow. A slightly wider design feels more welcoming and practical, especially when carrying equipment or walking side by side with another person. Learning from these common mistakes can save time, money, and frustration while producing a finished project that continues looking great for years. Part 6. The finished transformation. The moment I stepped back and looked at the completed walkway, the entire backyard felt different. The change wasn't just visual. It changed how the space functioned every day. Instead of cutting randomly across the grass, there was now a defined route that naturally guided movement. Carrying gardening supplies became easier, outdoor gatherings felt more organized, and even simple evening walks into the yard became more enjoyable. The straight lines of the pavers contrasted beautifully with the surrounding greenery, creating a balanced mix of structure and nature. Decorative gravel added texture while keeping maintenance simple, and the clean layout made the whole landscape appear more intentional. Friends and neighbors immediately noticed the upgrade. Some assumed the project had been installed by professionals because of how polished it looked. That reaction reinforced an important lesson. Thoughtful design often matters more than expensive materials. Most importantly, I found myself spending more time outdoors. The walkway encouraged me to use the backyard regularly instead of viewing it as a neglected extension of the house. It became one of those improvements that quietly enhanced everyday life in ways I hadn't expected. Part 7. Was it worth it? Final thoughts. Looking back, this simple paver walkway delivered one of the highest returns of any backyard project I've completed. It solved practical problems, improved the overall appearance of the property, and made the space more enjoyable without requiring a massive investment. If I were starting over, I'd spend just as much time planning the layout because that foundation influenced every decision afterward. I might even extend the path farther into the yard or connect it with future landscaping features like garden beds or seating areas. For anyone considering a similar project, remember that perfection isn't the goal. Careful preparation, patience, and consistency will have a far bigger impact than fancy materials or specialized equipment. Even beginners can achieve impressive results by focusing on the basics. The biggest surprise for me wasn't how good the walkway looked. It was how much it changed my daily routine. A simple path encouraged more time outside, made maintenance easier, and gave the backyard a finished appearance that had been missing for years. Sometimes the smallest projects create the biggest transformations, and this walkway proved exactly that. If you've been putting off your own yard upgrade, this might be the sign to finally get started. And there it is, the finished walkway that completely changed how I use my backyard. What started as a simple strip of grass is now one of my favorite parts of the entire space. It keeps my shoes clean after rain, makes carrying tools and supplies so much easier, and gives the yard a polished, welcoming look that I never had before. The best part? You don't need a huge budget or professional experience to create something like this. With a little planning, some basic materials, and a weekend to work, you can build a feature that adds both beauty and function to your home. If this project inspired you, let me know in the comments. Would you choose a modern paver walkway like this, or do you prefer a curved natural stone path? I'd love to hear your ideas. And if you enjoy budget-friendly DIY landscaping projects that make an ordinary yard look extraordinary, subscribe and stick around. There are plenty more transformations coming soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next project. Herb.